Out of all the art tips out there, I think this one specifically can help you draw everything, anything you want. I don't hear this art tip get talked about a lot or extensively, and that's why this video is here. If you're wondering what this art tip is, it's the power of observation. How do you even improve your observation skills? When it comes to drawing anything, your observation skills are very, very important. You can draw with your left hand and it can still look great. Sure, some lines are wonky, but you'll notice that it still looks pretty good. That's because I've built up a visual library and I've learned how to break things down into simple shapes. So how do we better observe objects? I'm gonna show you the 4 steps to observe objects in a better way. How to better extrapolate from your references, make them more accurate. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll be a better artist. All you need to remember is this word. Yep, snap. The first letter S stands for shapes. First, before anything, we want to break our reference down into simple shapes. We're only looking to break it down into circles, triangles, or boxes in that matter. For example, the torso can be broken down into a little box and the head a circle. These straps kind of look like triangles. You can basically draw most things with this step only. Example, this little bottle, it's pretty much just a cylinder and boom, you've already drawn it. This step is really effective only when you're kind of drawing more organic type shapes. But what if we're drawing poses or something more complicated? Then we need these second, third, and fourth steps. And here comes the second step. Negative space. If you're somehow still sticking around from this video, thank you so much, you're a trooper. And if you're still watching, go comment snap in the comments, cause why not? And it'll let me know that you've watched this video. Anyways, things get a little more complicated when we're approaching poses or more inorganic shapes. That's why step 2, 3, 4 exists. Let's take this reference for example, a little pose. As you can see here, I've already used step 1. Break it down into shapes. Now you can further break down this reference by observing the negative space, like these gaps between the hands and the arms and the feet. You can see that this is a triangle. This is somewhat of a little trapezium over here. Trying to figure out the negative space helps you with 3 things. For example, it might be really hard to break down the shape of the hand at first, but when you start focusing on the space around the hands, your brain stops guessing and you start observing these tiny shapes, like the little gaps or like triangles. This little large gap between the thumb and the pointer finger is kind of a bigger triangle too. It helps with proportions. When something looks off, it's often the space between things that's wrong, not the things themselves. Like, why does this cat look cursed? Oh, it's because the tail's too close to the leg. Boom, negative space check. And third, it creates balance in your composition. Art isn't just what you draw, it's where you don't draw. Negative space gives your art a breathing room. Think of the silence in the music. It's what makes the loud parts hit. You can practice identifying negative shapes by just trying to draw an object based on the shapes around it. Now, this third step is probably the most effective way to observe things in general. Analyze relationships. What I like to do is draw lines on top of these poses and see what aligns. For example, this leg aligns with the elbow where it bends, and so I'll keep that in mind. After drawing these lines, I also noticed that the left leg also aligns with the wrist. As you can see here, by just drawing lines, you can already see simple relationships like that, and that really helps you when you're trying to draw something. So here I'm gonna try replicate the reference. After all that information, I can finally start drawing. But before anything, I'm sure you can relate that finding a good tutorial is hard for anything, especially art, which is why I'd love to introduce you to our sponsor, SKILLSHARE. SKILLSHARE is an online learning platform with thousands and thousands of creative classes. If you're looking for classes in 3D modeling, or drawing, animation, or growing your social media account, then SKILLSHARE has it all. Not only are they taught by industry experts, but it's also an on-demand platform. That means you can access all these classes anywhere, anytime you want, which is really awesome. I think I've said this multiple times, but I've been trying to get into 3D modeling, and these classes on 3D modeling has been really helpful. Thank you to 3D Tutor for that, by the way. There's even classes on typography, and I think that's so cool. I want to take classes on typography. So yeah, guys, you don't want to miss out on this opportunity. So the first 500 people to click the link in the description will get a free trial of Skillshare for 3 whole months. So guys, don't miss this opportunity, and thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. So now that you've gathered all that information from your reference, all you need to do is replicate what you learned. We're gonna go ahead and start with drawing the line of action here, just to make things easier for ourselves. And then we're gonna break down these little shapes from the reference, keeping in mind of the outside space, the negative space. There's like a triangle gap between these arms here, so we're gonna keep in mind of that. And don't forget the lines we drew to compare things. So the right leg of this character should approximately end over here, and the other one should be here. And by using these 3 steps alone, you're already giving yourself a powerful tool, and that's learning how to observe things, how to measure things. If you apply these 3 steps into everything you want to draw, I'm confident that your drawings will look better. Now that we've covered 3 of the 4 letters, it's time to find out the 4th one, P. That means perspective. I would call this an extended version of learning the first letter, shapes, but in 3 dimensions. Everything can be made up by basic 3-dimensional shapes. All you need to do is know how to use them or draw them in perspective. I think the best exercise for anyone that's trying to start drawing is to draw cubes. Draw them in different perspectives, different angles. And after that, move on to spheres, cylinders, and then try to carve little shapes out of them. Eventually, you'll be able to carve anything out of simple 3-dimensional shapes, and this is really helpful. If you follow these 4 steps, 4 tips, then you will be a better artist in general, because all of these things can be applied to drawing anything. I'll give you guys another set example. Drawing heads. I was always taught by people to draw heads like this. And again, we're seeing the example of snap. We're starting with the shapes, circle, line in the middle, and then we close in into the middle. And there we have our head shape. Now for this scenario, we don't really need the second letter, negative space. We're not really keeping account negative space here, so we're gonna skip to the 3rd bit. Analyzing relationships. I was taught that eyes are actually 1 eye apart. Yeah, if you measure in real life, you'll realize that your eyes are actually 1 eye apart. If you go 2 eyes down from the eyes, you'll get the nose. And that's where it's located. And then below that is the mouth. Generally, your ear starts where the level of your eyebrow is and then ends at the nose. And this is the basic guideline I use to draw heads. It's not any fixed rule, but it goes to show that measurements can take you a long way, and I like to use these measurements as a general guideline whenever I'm drawing heads. This is one example of many other guidelines, like proportions. They also have guidelines. The point of this video is to show you the steps and ways that you can improve your art, and by training your brain to consistently follow these steps, you'll be a better artist in general. Anyways, I hope you learned something. Goodbye.